Um, Now, first lecture after the midterm. Introduction to operating system, pengantar sistem operasi. Definition. System operating system is a program that controls the execution of application programs. Jadi, itu sebenarnya suatu program. Operating system itu sebenarnya program jugaan. Sama seperti program-program yang lain. Tapi bedanya adalah dia yang mengontrol eksekusi dari program-program aplikasi yang lainnya. So basically, operating system is the same as the other programs. It is basically another program. However, the difference is that it controls the execution of those other programs. So that is the main difference. Sistem operasi juga merupakan interface yang menghubungkan aplikasi dengan hardware. So, operating system is a kind of interface that connects the application, the other programs, with the hardware. So, when the other application programs want to connect to the hardware, then it will go through operating system. This is the objective of the operating system. The first one is kenyamanan itu apa ya? Kenyamanan itu smooth user experience. So basically, the existence of the operating system is for making the user feel comfortable, have a smooth shelling experience while using the computer. And then the second objective is the efficiency. It enables the use of the computing resources as efficient as possible. So that is the efficiency here. And then third one, ability for another development. So here, operating system allows development of other things, other programs, other parts effectively. And then it can introduce new functions without interrupting the existing services. So that is the another objective of the operating system. This the diagram of layering of the computer. Here is layers and views of a computer system. So for the end user, pengguna biasa di sini, ini yang paling atas. Mereka pengguna biasa itu umumnya hanya berurusan dengan program aplikasi. Jadi pakai misalkan pakai kalkulator, pakai text editor, terus kemudian pakai main game. Itu levelnya di sini. Levelnya. Terus ya, ada yang bertanya? Okay. Next, second type of the user is the programmer here. Pengguna jenis yang kedua adalah programmer. Here, the programmer access the utilities and the operating system. So, for example, utilities here, the example for the utilities is accessing OpenGL. So, if you enroll later on in graphical computer graphics class, then you will learn how to use OpenGL API. So, it is basically a utilities placed on top of the operating system. Jadi nanti kalau mahasiswa di sini ini ngambil kelas grafika komputer, nanti di sana akan diajari bagaimana mengakses API OpenGL untuk menggambar sesuatu di komputer. Nah, API OpenGL itu salah satu contoh dari utilities di sini. Dia ada di atas operating system. And then a programmer can also directly access the operating system if he or she build an application that needs to access operating system services directly, then he can do it, she can do it. Jadi programmer itu juga bisa mengakses layanan operating system secara langsung. Jadi kalau misalkan dia butuh misalkan forking lah atau mengakses file lah, nah itu programmer bisa mengaksesnya lewat di sini. Now the third type is the operating system designer. Ini yang user yang ketiga, designer sistem operasi. Mereka inilah yang mengakses hardware secara langsung. They are accessing the computer hardware directly. So far, is there any question? Ada pertanyaan kah? Ada pertanyaan kah? Tidak ada, saya lanjutkan. This operating system services. First one is program development, and then the second one is program execution, and then I/O access, and then file access control, and then system access. System access ini the system access decision here refers to the public system accessing parts that are available to be accessed by the user. And then another service from the SO is error detection and response. So why do the operating system needs to provide this service? It's because there might be some hardware failure, hardware error, whether it is internally or externally. For example, memory error. So there's something wrong with the memory. So memory has a bad cells, for example. And then device failure. Device here can refer to anything in the input device. For example, the keyboard or printer or anything else. And then there is also the second type of the error which is caused by the software. The software causing the error. For example, here there is an arithmetic overflow. So there is an overflow where the arithmetic calculations creating an overflow there. And then denied access toward a certain memory location. So the program tries, basically in this case, the program tries to access a memory location that it doesn't have the permission to. Jadi di sini ada satu program yang mau mengakses lokasi memori yang dia tidak punya izin. Nah, ini yang seperti itu disebut sebagai kesalahan software. And then operating system might not allow the application request. It depends on it might be caused because the application request toward a sensitive information where it doesn't have the permission. That is a reason and one example. Jadi di sini sistem operasi tidak mengizinkan permintaan aplikasi. Jadi aplikasi meminta sesuatu yang memang itu tidak boleh. Misalkan kalkulator mau mengakses, kalau di handphone itu ya, kalkulator mau mengakses phone book misalkan. Kan ada kaitannya, kalkulator mengapain mau mengakses phone book. Dia tidak diizinkan dan dia tidak punya izin seperti itu. Nah, yang seperti ini operating system harus melarang. Itu disebut sebagai deteksi kesalahan dan respon. Next, another operating system services is the accounting. Accounting here refers to compiling use statistics. Jadi menghimpun data-data penggunaan. Oh, si user A dia menggunakan memori sekarang sejumlah sekian. Dia sedang merunning proses apa saja. So, for example, for this one, user A runs this list of processes, and the operating system needs to keep a track of it. And then it needs to monitor the performance. What is the utilization of the processor? Penggunaan prosesor berapa banyak? Penggunaan memori berapa banyak? Terus penggunaan apa lagi? Jalur koneksi seberapa besar. Nah, ini termasuk operating system services. Next, this kind of statistics are used to anticipate the future request. Jadi, if the current trend of the memory usage, or I don't know, whatever things is showing that it is increasing, then the SO, the operating system, needs to allocate more resources for that thing. Jadi contohnya adalah misalkan kalau memorinya, trennya memori ini digunakan semakin lama semakin banyak, maka dalam hal ini maka sistem operasi harus mengalokasikan lebih banyak. Gimana cara mengalokasikan lebih banyak? Bukannya memori itu fix, Pak. Nanti sebentar lagi akan saya jelaskan tentang yang namanya virtual memory. Nanti sebentar lagi. Next, it might be used for billing. Billing itu misalkan ditagih masalah keuangannya. Jadi misalkan ada user, dia komputernya itu bukan punya dia, tapi dia menyewa. Nanti dia dilihat, misalkan kalau biasanya kalau di warnet lah, nggak tahu sekarang warnet itu masih ada atau tidak itu. Di warnet itu kan kalau ada ada yang dulu itu paketnya per jam, ada yang paketnya nggak tahu per banyaknya yang di-download. Nah, nanti kalau banyak di-download terlihat, oh digunakan sekian giga, maka dikasih harga sekian. Nah, ini itu termasuk layanan sistem operasi. So, one, for example, if we buy the cellular provider data package, so it will keep track how many gigabytes that we have downloaded or we have uploaded. So in order to limit our usage based on the package that we buy. So this one is also an example for the operating system services. Next, operating system is responsible to mengelola itu apa ya? To manage the resources, whatever resources it is available, they are available in the computer system. And then it also functions as a normal computer software. Basically, it is a program that is being executed. Next, operating system release the control when the other application program needs to be run, and then it needs to depend on the processor to get the control back from those running application. Jadi di sini maksudnya apa? Kalau ada aplikasi yang lagi jalan gitu ya, maka sistem operasi harus melepas kontrolnya. Dia tidak mungkin di running terus-terusan sama komputer terus tidak memberikan kesempatan untuk aplikasi yang lain untuk bekerja. Tidak mungkin. Nah, jadi dia harus dilepas. Ada saatnya harus melepas. Nah, yang begitu dia harus bergantung nanti pada prosesor untuk mendapatkan kontrol lagi. Jadi intinya ya dia sebenarnya sama seperti aplikasi yang lain. Dikasih kesempatan untuk menggunakan prosesor, setelah itu ya sudah. Tergantung prosesor untuk balik lagi ke dia atau ke yang lain. And then this one, operating system as resource manager. Let me make it bigger. Here, this is the computer system. the big box here. It has a memory, and this is the part where the operating system software resides. Ini adalah tempat di mana sistem operasi tinggal. Other than that, the other areas in the memory are used by other programs and data. Next, there is a processor. It might be one or more than one. And then there are several I/O controllers. Each of them connected to the I/O devices here. And it could be printers, keyboard, digital camera, etc. And in every single this one is specific. This one is for storage. In the storage, it can be divided into 3 parts. First part is the part where the operating system is stored, and then the second part is where the program is stored, and then the third part is where the data is stored. Ada pertanyaan dulu. Is there any question so far? Is there any question so far? Okay. Next, kernel. Kernel is a part of the operating system that resides in the main memory. It has majority of the function frequently used. Jadi dia itu kecil, sedapat mungkin kecil, tapi fungsi-fungsi pentingnya tuh semuanya ngumpul di situ. Dan ini kernel biasanya selalu ada di dalam memori utama. Jadi kalau pernah dengar kernel di dalam bacaan buku majalah atau artikel di internet, nah kernel itu sebenarnya ini sebenarnya. Dia bagian dari sistem operasi. So, if you ever read from magazine or from internet articles about kernel, this is actually the definition of kernel. It is a part of the operating system. Now, operating system evolution, evolusi sistem operasi. So basically, operating system is evolving. It is developing again and again. It happens because there has been an upgrade in the hardware, or there has been an addition for a new hardware type. Jadi ada hardware-nya di-upgrade, jadi yang sama-sama printer tapi yang ini printernya jadi lebih canggih. Atau yang kedua, penambahan tipe hardware baru. Sebelumnya tidak punya scanner, sekarang jadi punya scanner misalkan. Atau yang lain-lain ini, device driver-nya di-update. There is an update for the device driver. And then new services. Nowadays, it is seldom that operating system has new services. Really new. It is seldom, because the majority of the services has been there. However, it is not saying that it is non-existent. It is still exists, but it is rarely happen. Jadi layanan baru di sini ini jarang sudah, karena fungsi-fungsi utama dari sistem operasi itu biasanya sudah tersedia, cukup lengkap. Tapi ini saya tidak ngomong begini bukan berarti bahwa tidak akan pernah terjadi lagi penambahan layanan baru. Tidak, tetap ada penambahan, tetapi sifatnya jarang. Berbeda dengan yang ini, it is different compared to this one. Fixes atau perbaikan. Because for the fixes, it relates to this one, security fixes. Jadi kalau yang ini, perbaikan keamanan itu hampir beberapa hari sekali, beberapa minggu sekali, itu selalu ada perbaikan keamanan. Karena bisa jadi dideteksi, oh ternyata ada celah keamanan di sini, maka perlu di-fix. Nah, kalau yang ini jauh lebih sering daripada yang ini. Oke, lanjut. Ini yang model pertama. Ini yang model pertama dari sistem operasi. Namanya serial processing. ini masih belum dikategorikan sebagai sistem operasi. Ini adalah cikal bakalnya sistem operasi. So, ini terjadi kalau tidak salah sekitar, tidak tahu, 1940-an mungkin. Mungkin 1940-an mungkin. Yang model yang semacam ini. So, this is serial processing is not operating system. It is but we can say that it is the precursor of the operating system. I think this one happens back in 1940s. So, during those time, computer machine runs with one console with display light, toggle switches, input device, and printer. So it doesn't have the current monitor, color monitor. It doesn't have something like that. It only has display light. It is a very simple monitor during those time. Now, how it works is that it schedule the timing of the execution of the programs. Setup will load compiler source, program source, and then stored also the compiled program, and then linking all of them, and then run it. Jadi ceritanya di sini setup, ada program setup itu dia run compiler, source program, kemudian dia menyimpan hasil kompilasinya, kemudian loading and linking. So basically here there is no system operation. There is no system operating system. And then next, a simple batch system. So it has this service, monitoring service. In here, it can control a sequence of the running program. So now, other than just compiling and running, it can try to monitor and control. And then there is a common batch job. Pekerjaan-pekerjaan itu dikumpulkan barengan dalam satu pooling. Nanti dia yang mengontrol mana yang dijalankan. So, jobs are pulled together and then it will control which one needs to be run. And then the program being run will read the control to the monitor when it finishes. Hardware support for the monitor model is that first one is memory protection. Some of the memory area can only be accessed by the monitor. The program cannot access that or those areas. And then there is a privilege instruction mode instruksi privilege. Yang mode ini itu artinya dia hanya bisa diakses oleh si monitor. In this mode, instruction can only be accessed by the monitor. And then interruption. So it support interrupt. However, not all computer machine has this function. The monitor system can support this interrupt processes, but hardware itself might not have the support. Now, here is the example of system utilization. Here, reading one record from a file, membaca satu record dalam satu file itu butuh 15 microsecond, 15 microseconds. Execute 100 instructions itu that only takes 1 microsecond. Write one record file takes another 15 microsecond. Total 1 microsecond. Now, if we compare CPU utilization is this one. This one, 1 microsecond. Divided at 1 31 microsecond, then it only uses 3.2%. So little, because again, CPU is really fast compared to the I/O devices. Jadi di sini bisa diperhatikan, CPU itu kerjanya sangat kencang. Ini 1 microsecond itu sudah 100 instruction. Sementara untuk mengakses I/O itu butuh jauh lebih besar dari itu. Makanya utilisasinya cuma 3,2%. Itu karena sekali lagi CPU jauh lebih cepat daripada peralatan device I/O device. Now, ini bisa menyebabkan problem. This can cause a problem. For uniprogramming, the processor waits the instruction I/O to finish before the processor can start another work. So in here, in uniprogramming, one program A run, and then after this, it needs to wait from the I/O device. So it waits here. After this part, the I/O device responded by providing the data it needed, or confirming that okay, your written data has been written successfully. Then it can start running again. However, up until this point, it stop again because it needs to wait for the I/O device again. As we can see, more time is used for waiting rather than running. Jadi di sini ya, running terus dia nunggu ada waktu I/O device waiting sekian. Setelah selesai I/O device-nya running lagi sekian, di sini berhenti lagi karena nunggu I/O device. Ini kelihatan ya, waiting time-nya itu jauh lebih panjang daripada running time. Now, this one, multiprogramming. When one job waits for I/O device, then the processor can move on and execute another job. This one, program A, program B. Program A run di sini, wait, run, wait. Program B wait, run, wait, run. Kalau digabung, nih jadi program A running gini kan, dia wait kan, prosesor pindah, dia jalankan program B. Di sini running. Oh, ternyata di sini juga wait. Ini wait, sama-sama wait. Di sini program A jalan duluan, maka prosesor running program A lagi. Ini selesai, dia wait, program B sudah siap, maka running program B. Jadi kalau digambarkan begini, if we combine here, then processor runs program A and then program B and then wait. Running program A again, program B, and then wait again. As we can see, the wait time is reduced. The timing for the wait is reduced. So far, is there any question? Ada pertanyaan dulu? Ada pertanyaan dulu kah? Ada pertanyaan dulu kah? Tidak ada, lanjut. Now, with multiprogramming, it runs more than one. So previously, example here uses only 2 programs. In this case, it runs 3 programs. So here, program A running here, program B, program C, and then wait. Running again program A, B, C, and then wait. Again, we can see the waiting time here is reduced yet again. Now, time sharing. Time sharing uses multiprogramming to handle many interactive job, many interactive work. Processor time is divided by many users. Many users simultaneously access system using the terminal. Now, there is a difference between batch multiprogramming versus time sharing. Here, This column is for the batch multiprogramming, and this column is for the time sharing. The principal objective for batch multiprogramming is to maximize the processor use, whereas for time sharing is to maximize response time. And then source of directives to operating system for batch multiprogramming is to job control language commands provided with the job. For the time sharing, it is the user commands entered at terminal. So it is the main driver. Now, big achievement of operating system. There are 5 critical points that has reached big milestone. Those 5 critical points are process, memory management, and then protection and security of the information, and then scheduling and managerial management of resources, and then system structure. Now, I will discuss one by one. Process. The definition of process is a program that is being executed. It is also an instance from a program that runs in the computer. Apa ini maksudnya? What is the meaning of this? So, if I run calculator here, this one is one instance. I can run another instance, another instance, and it is the same application. Both of them are calculator. Each one of them, we call them as the instance or the process. This process for calculator 2, this one is process for calculator 1. So this is an example of process. Another definition is that process is an entity that can be over and executed on the processor. So process is basically a unit activity that has these characteristics. First, it has a set of execution thread, and then it has the current state, and it has a set of resources, system resources that it needs to use. Jadi, for example, calculator here. Di dalam calculator sini dia punya thread, ada thread yang untuk menghitung, ada thread yang menerima inputan. Terus dia punya current state. Current state-nya dia sekarang sedang menunjukkan ini. Current state-nya akan berbeda dengan yang ini. Ini current state-nya sekarang 0 current state-nya. Berbeda dengan current state-nya yang ini. Jadi tiap proses akan punya current state-nya sendiri-sendiri. Dan sumber daya sistemnya akan berbeda. Di sini dia mengakses monitor yang bagian sini. Yang ini monitor yang bagian sini, yang resource-nya yang dia pakai. Oke. But the problem with developing software system in dealing with the processes is that it might be that the synchronization is not correct. So, ada dua aplikasi yang saling berkomunikasi. Yang kalau contohnya ini tidak ada antar satu aplikasi kalkulator dengan satu aplikasi kalkulator yang lain, tidak ada komunikasi. Tapi bisa jadi kita punya aplikasi yang butuh berkomunikasi, dan itu butuh disinkronisasi. Nah, yang seperti ini, kalau sinkronisasinya tidak tepat, maka bisa error, terus programnya bisa gagal jalan. So, it might be that the processes needs to communicate to each other. If the communication fails, so basically the synchronization is not happening correctly, then it might cause error and it might cause the process to close down. That's this one. And then the second one, mutual exclusion. Failure of mutual exclusion. Mutual exclusion is later on in the incoming weeks, I will explain about this in detail. So let's just accept for now that there is this one. Jadi saya akan menjelaskan tentang ini akan lebih lanjut, lebih dalam minggu-minggu, beberapa minggu depan. Jadi sementara diterima dulu aja. And then program operation has this non-determinate characteristic. Non-determinate means that we don't know what will the next operation be for the particular processes. So because we cannot predict what will happen in the future, then it might be that we allocate something that should not be allocated for that process. Jadi bisa jadi karena kita tidak bisa memprediksi kebutuhan masa depan, bisa jadi kita salah. Kita mengalokasikan satu resource ke satu proses padahal harusnya tidak seperti itu. Sekali lagi ini nanti akan saya bahas lebih dalam di beberapa minggu ke depan. So again, I will discuss this in depth in the incoming weeks. Also deadlocks. I will explain this later. Process has three components. Executable program, data, data program, and then execution context from the program. Execution context refers to all information that is needed by the operating system to manage that process. So here is typical process implementation. So this is the main memory. Is a process list. Process list di sini menyimpan daftar dari proses-prosesnya. Ini contohnya. It stores the list of all of the processes. Here, for example, process I. It has some information and link pointing to location of its process. Process B. Here, in the process list J, it has a link toward to process A. And for every single process, it has context, data, and the program or the code. And here, length is H here. Here in the processor register, the processor hardware, the register, it has the process index stored in one register. And then it has the PC program counter, which is pointing to which part of the program it is now executing. And then there's a base here, base B here, and then the limit H. And then there are other register. But now this one is executing this process. The base and limit uses this one, B and H. Jadi di sini ini dalam prosesor, hardware prosesor, ini dalam memori. Memori punya proses listnya. Dalam prosesor, register nyimpan datanya sendiri-sendiri. Ini nyimpan proses indeks prosesnya sekarang I di sini, yaitu ke proses B. Dan program counter dia lagi mengeksekusi program yang baris perintah yang mana di sini, mengarahnya ke sini. Base dan limit karena punyanya sekarang sudah mengeksekusi proses B, maka B dan H ini yang dimasukkan. Now, ini yang saya singgung tadi, virtual memory. It allows programmer to use memory from the perspective of logical memory, not physical memory. Jadi kalaupun si memorinya itu punya batasan fisik, penggunaan memori virtual oleh operating system itu membuat seolah-olah memorinya itu lebih besar daripada memori yang sesungguhnya. Nih, it allows illusion that computer has a bigger memory capacity than what is actually available in the main memory. Why? Bagaimana Pak caranya seperti itu? How? It does that by saving some information into file system. Which is biasanya file system di sini mengacunya itu pada hard disk. So the file system here usually refers to hard disk. So hard disk is used as if it is a main memory. This is virtual memory. Now, uses this technique called paging. Dia menggunakan teknik ini, namanya paging. This is one way to implement the virtual memory. It allows the process to be built from a set of fixed size block called page. And then virtual address is the virtual address is refers to a page number and offset in those pages. Every single page can be put anywhere in the main memory. Real address or physical address is address of main memory. Maksudnya apa? Bingung Pak saya Pak. Tunjukannya di sini. What are you talking, sir? I'm confused. So here is the diagram here. Here is the main memory, and this one is the hard disk. Main memory consists of a number of fixed length frames, each equal to the size of a page. For a program to execute, some or all of its pages must be in the main memory. Jadi, main memory itu terdiri dari sejumlah frame yang jumlahnya terbatas. Nah, masing-masing frame itu ukurannya sama seperti satu page. Nah, untuk suatu program itu dijalankan, maka sebagian atau semua page-nya itu harus ada dalam main memory. Ini contohnya program A. Nih, program A-nya tersebar, program B tersebar. Nah, and then this one is for the disk. The secondary memory disk can hold many fixed length pages. A user program consists of some number of pages. Pages for all programs plus operating system are on disk as R files. So here it stores the user program A here and then user program B here. Whenever it needs to be loaded, then it will taken from the disk and put it here in the main memory. So if it needs to execute, the processor needs to execute something, then it will call the data from the disk and then put it in the main memory. So every single block here refers to the page. And then because everything is based on the page, then the processor can access either main memory and secondary memory in the same way using this one, memory management unit, using its name, term, virtual address. So here the memory management unit will manage whatever request the processor has, and then will pass it either to main memory or to these addresses. So here the processor sees main memory and secondary memory as if they are the same thing. Jadi di sini karena semuanya diaksesnya dengan menggunakan page, maka prosesor itu bisa mengakses main memory ataupun secondary memory secara dengan menggunakan metode yang sama. Dianggap sama karena dia lewat ini, memory management unit. Jadi prosesor minta data, oke. Nanti memory management ini akan ngecek ini adanya data di mana, di main memory atau secondary memory. Dia yang akan mengatur. Dia yang akan mengirim real address ke sini atau disk access. Is there any question so far? Oh, continue. And then protection and security of the information. It has several facets, several aspects. The first one is availability. It refers to focus to protect the system against interruption. or something error, some problem that can interrupt the availability of the computer service. And then the second is confidentiality. It ensures that user cannot read data that it doesn't have the permission. That is confidentiality. And then data integrity. It protects the data from changes that are not secure. And then next is authentication. Focus on the verification from the user ID and the validity of the message or the validity of the data. This is the authentication. And then next, ini tadi kalau yang proteksi dan keamanan. This one is protection and security. And this one for scheduling and the resource management. Focus is on the fairness. How to give fair access and equal access to resources. So if one user or one process needs to access many things, then it might block the other processes. So in this case, the operating system must ensure that there is a fairness happening for all of the processes or for all of the users. And then differential responsiveness. Even though this one has a fairness, but then there might be some cases that different job classes needs a different responsive. So for example, in the server, which focuses more on the data processing, then the SQL Server program needs to have higher priority compared to game program. So this one needs to be decided by OS, by the operating system. Di sini ya, di sini fairness itu kalau dia levelnya sama. Nah, di sini dikasih pembedaan. Level-level program itu tiap program itu punya levelnya sendiri-sendiri. Kalau misalkan ini aplikasinya di server database itu ya, maka aplikasi database SQL Server itu harus punya prioritas yang lebih besar daripada aplikasi game. Yang seperti ini yang mengatur adalah operating system. And then the third one is efficiency. It tries to maximize the throughput and then minimize the response time and then accommodate as many as users, as many as processes as possible. This is the efficiency. Jadi efisiensi di sini ngomongnya kalau ada request data, gimana caranya datanya bisa dikirim sebanyak mungkin dalam waktu sesingkat mungkin. Terus kemudian meminimalkan response time ini bicara tentang kalau user memberikan input, terus gimana caranya segera mungkin inputnya diproses, terus ditunjukkan hasilnya ke si user tersebut. Itu meminimalkan response time. Lanjut, operating system key elements, ya, the operating system. It has service call handler, code here. It takes in the service call from the processes. If the process has a need, it will call this one, the service call from the operating system. And then there is this one, interrupt handler. Basically, this one dealing with interrupt from the processes or interrupt from the I/O devices. And then it has long-term queue and then short-term queue. Basically, these are the jobs that needs to be done. And then the I/O queues. So every single I/O might have some queues that needs to be processed. And then it has short-term scheduler. And this one basically running the process and then passing the control to the process. Ada pertanyaan dulu? Sampai sini ada pertanyaan dulu? Is there any question? So far, is there any question? Lanjut. Modern operating system. First one is using microkernel architecture. Jadi in here, the kernel only has a little essential functions. That is, for example, address spaces, and then inter-process communication, and then basic scheduling. Example for this microkernel architecture is Max, and then QNX. Now, the modern operating system like Windows, Linux, Mac OS is not considered as microkernel. So, yang microkernel di sini sudah jarang tidak masuk dalam umum di dunia PC. And then for modern operating system, it has this feature multi-threading, which is one process is divided into several threads that can run concurrently. Concurrently ini berjalan bersama-sama, simultaneously. What is thread? Thread is work unit can be dispatched, and then execution is sequentially and interruptible. I will explain this later in the incoming weeks. Akan saya jelaskan lebih panjang lebar tentang thread ini di minggu-minggu ke depan. And in one process, you can have one or more than one thread, one or multiple thread. Process is like here, like this calculator. It can have several threads. And then another characteristic of a modern operating system is that it uses symmetric multiprocessing or SMP. So it can the computer can have multiple processors, and then those processors divided shared the main memory and the same I/O devices. All processors can work on the same function. This is the SMP. Again, I will explain this later on. So, this one is multiprogramming and multiprocessing. This is timing, running from left to right. This one is interleaving, multiprogramming one processor. In this case, there are three processes. At the beginning, the processor run process 1, and then block. The gray area is block, and then it runs process 2, and then block stop running process 1 again, block stop running process 3 here, and then block stop running process 2, process 3 run here and finish, process 2 run here, finish, and then going back running process 1 run here and finish here. And then there is this one, interleaving and overlapping multiprocessing with two processor. This one is one processor, this one is two processor. In this case, process 1 runs on the first processor. Process 2 and process 3 runs on top of the other processor. So this one, process 2 run, stop, running process 3, run, stop, running process 2 again. Jadi yang di atas ini prosesornya cuma satu, yang di bawah prosesornya dua. Kalau yang cuma satu ya dibagi-bagi begini. Kalau yang dua, proses 2 dan proses 3 running di prosesor kedua, proses 1 runningnya di prosesor pertama. Jadi kelihatan kan? Lebih cepat berhentinya. Ini proses 3 harus berhenti di sini, ini berhentinya di sini. Proses 2 berhentinya di sini, dia berhentinya di sini. So, in overall, for processor, the faster will it be. And then another modern operating system characteristic is that this one, distributed operating system. It provides the illusion of a single main memory space and single secondary memory space. Jadi di sini sistem operasinya terdistribusi, seolah-olah seolah-olah memory space dan main memory space dan single memory space itu seolah sekalipun komputernya banyak, ada di banyak tempat, seolah jadi satu di tempat yang sama. Itu sistem operasi terdistribusi. Contohnya adalah namanya Amoeba. Then another characteristic of modern operating system is this one, object-oriented development. Object-oriented engineering. This one is used to add new extension, modular extension against a microkernel. This thing allows programmers to customize on one operating system without stopping the system itself. So because everything is based on object, whenever it needs to add new things or customize things, it just install a new module. The example here, next step, is on Objective-C on top of BSD kernel and Mac kernel. And then BOS, it uses C++ to wrap a C kernel. Okay, it's done. Is there any question? Is there any question? Just the introduction. Ini masih pengantar. Nanti minggu-minggu ke depan, in the upcoming weeks, I will delve deeper to every single topic here. Saya akan membahas lebih detail untuk banyak-banyak topik di sini yang saya sebutkan. Karena memang sifatnya yang pertemuan ini adalah pengantar. Ada pertanyaan? Ada pertanyaan kah? Ada pertanyaan? Kalau tidak ada, jangan lupa absen. Terus saya akhiri pertemuan kita hari ini. Silahkan log off.
Terima kasih Pak.